on, or God forbid, threats of violence or self-harm. And what we like most about Gaggle is there's a human element to it. So once something gets flagged at, I forget what all the colors are, but let's say orange and red or whatever the highest levels are, somebody at Gaggle headquarters actually then, an actual person reviews it and then calls an East Aurora administrator in order of importance that we designate. So if a child says, God forbid, a child says, this is it, I can't handle it anymore, I just want to say goodbye, and sends out an email, that email is reviewed in real time, 24/7 by the people at Gaggle. And they would immediately call at the high school, Bill, Travis, Brian, me, whoever we put on our list of priorities. So really what it is it's to catch any instances of bullying, and at the same time, any instances of violence, whether they be perpetrated on others or self-harm. And what we found is, especially in light of what's going on, the mental health piece is so significant. There have been a few times where we've caught some cyberbullying and other things like that. We do know some kids have said some things that are a little concerning, nothing to this level yet, but we don't want to leave that to catch can chance. Studies show that when the kids are thinking of doing this, they tend to notify someone that they're thinking of doing something harmful. And we want to make sure that we have kind of safety nets built in prior to, God forbid. But I know there were some questions.
Is it monitoring just the East Aurora school accounts?
Yes. So in terms of us, they have other school districts too, but yes. So they're only monitoring their EA K-12 account and their EA K-12 Google Docs, Google Sheets, anything in Google Suite. But again, it shows that kids do reach out within those mechanisms when they're thinking.
And so we still need to encourage kids to, if they see something on their own social media accounts, to
absolutely. If someone's on their own Facebook, their own Twitter, their own Gmail, it doesn't. We even if they're logged into EA K-12 and they do that stuff, we don't have access to that. We don't see what websites they visit, so it's not very much a Big Brother thing. But it's within EA K-12. We want that bubble to be as safe as possible from cyberbullying, from threats of violence, from threats of self-harm.
Is this something that will then stay on their accounts after the pandemic? This is something that we're just going to keep on every student's account from this point forward?
We didn't get that far yet. We want to monitor it, especially in light of the strain that the mental health piece of what's going on. If we find it valuable, yes. If not, we don't have to. Many districts have it full time. The alternative is either a less sophisticated AI or catching things. It's the same as electronically sweeping every kid's locker. We don't do that. We hear something, we go to that locker and check on it. The same way, the stuff that's happening in cyberspace can be more pressing and more urgent than that. And so it's really just an electronic resource to help with that.
So when are we starting it, and when do we let the parents know we're starting it?
We have not made the decision to start it yet, and there is a transparency piece that we would notify the students and the parents, and there's also a statement that goes on our website. Part of us wants to be very transparent about it. The other part of it is we want to catch this stuff too, so we don't want to constantly hit people over the head with it, because if a child is thinking of harming themselves or someone else, we want the mechanism in place to catch that as well. So it's a fine line of transparency, but our goal is to err on the side of transparency. But we left it up for this discussion. I know Judy and then Kim had hands. Judy?
Well, I'm just wondering, is this a bit like testing to parents? Can they opt in or opt out?
I don't believe we have that option. It's within our EA K-12 bubble, and it uses the same mentality as we right now have the right to go to any EA K-12 account. It's school district owned. It's the same as we have a right to search lockers. You can't out of us searching your child's locker. What this is a tool for administration to say anything that happens within our bubble, which is the EA K-12 bubble. Not only do we have a right to do it, but right now, if we heard a report that a child is emailed plans to another student about how they're going to do something to the school, we can go right into that email account and do it. But it relies on that word of mouth. This would just be a screening that happens kind of automatically that would help us catch that. But because we're not technically touching anything that's privately owned, we're not going into their email, we're not tracking their phones. Even if they're in EAK12 on their phone, we're not monitoring what their phone is doing. This is just within that bubble. It's the same as in us searching lockers or us, those type of things that we have that right to in the interest of safety within our bubble.
No, it seems like an important tool. I was just wondering how
Yeah.
the logistics of it work. Thank you.
Yeah, the logistics are it's EAK12 is ours, and we reserve the right based on our AUP now to get into it. This is just a tool that hopefully in the event of high level, I mean, this, again, we're not looking for little, this kid broke up with this kid or this kid called that kid a whatever poopy face like that. We don't, that's not what this is. This is not witch hunt. This is like high level threats of mental health or violence. That's what we want to use this tool for. This is not to every time they misspell a word, come down on them type thing.
Right. Thank you.
Kim, I know you had a question.
Yeah, I would just want to get a little bit more information about the company or the background of Gaggle. And I'm trying to understand, since it sounds to me as though we then are relying on a third party, i.e. Gaggle, to notify us if there is a problem. And I'm just trying to understand how, what those parameters are. And if something gets missed, then what happens if we have this in place and it was missed along the way?
Yeah, and we can talk into signing the contract. We haven't done that yet. They are a nationally known company, and they are the leader in doing this in terms of that. So I would say, on a practical level, let me just totally switching gears. For those of you watching at home, the live stream went down for a little bit. We're back now. Everything that you missed was recorded and will be part of the recording that goes up, as well as the transcript. So I know the internet went out for a little bit. You missed stuff, but you didn't really miss anything. It does exist. So just to let you know, anyone viewing at home, what happened to the meeting. Kim, back to your question. We can talk about that liability piece and the rest. I mean, it's our theory in approaching it is it's another tool. It's not foolproof, but it definitely is more foolproof than what we're using now, which is sort of a word of mouth followed by a hunt and peck approach. So it's just that extra layer that we're looking to add.
Okay. And how long would the contract be for? I guess I'm just trying to.
I guess we could probably sign it for the rest of the year once we get it up and going. I mean, we're a good, even if we had the full blessing tonight, we're a good couple weeks from actually doing it. So we can cross that bridge when we come to it. I kind of put the whole project on hold, knowing that we were going to start talking about it at the last meeting and it got bounced to this one. Our piece is just, as we know, two things. As we know, the pandemic is putting a strain on our students, and we're doing our best to mitigate it, but we all know that mental health and social emotional health is rising to the forefront. It's really just that piece of, if we can do something else to help prevent a tragedy. And again, that's the level we're looking at. Is it worth trying to do it? Maybe we may think it's too invasive, or we don't like it, or the reports we're getting are not worthwhile, or whatever. We were just researching, and we know a lot of local districts use it across the state and across the nation. It's kind of the flagship program for this sort of stuff.
Do you have a sense of how many local districts are using it, Mark? And
I do when I'm at work. Yeah, I can get some, and we can talk about to those districts, but I know it's being used.
And then the other question would be, there's obviously some privacy concerns about it. I get that the district, can always go in and look at somebody's computer, but I just wonder whether there's been, what we can anticipate in terms of those concerns and how other districts might have addressed it.
And I know Dennis has done a lot of reaching out on the tech end of how that works, and I can speak more on the administrative end, or maybe we can have some of the principals speak to other principals about that. It's not a done deal yet, but we just thought, again, the type of stuff we're trying to catch in the hopes of preventing We just wanted to make sure we exhausted every option. This isn't designed to be Big Brothery, other than when we need Big Brother to step in. Type thing.
Anybody else with questions on it?
Yeah, Mark, you mentioned reports. Do they send you like weekly reports, or they only contact us if there is a concern?
We can get layers. We can ask what we want for. So we would get layers of, obviously they call you 24/7 in the event of a significant thing. Then there's a next layer down. You can designate what do you want to be called for, what do you want to be emailed for. And so it would be, if it's perceived bullying, it's this. If it's a threat of violence, it's this or that. We can select what we want their algorithm to look for. So we would make those decisions based on the comfort of the board and the administrators.
And who does it, I'm sorry, Mark, who does it get reported to, or how is that?
Like something, let's say something significant, we pick the priority of order. So, it would be, and again, it's a 24/7 monitoring. So let's say it's a high school thing. It could be Bill, then Travis, then the social worker, then the counselor, all the way down. I mean, you can make the list as long as you want, and they keep calling until they get a human being. So it can go all the way from Bill through his whole counseling center, through Brian, through me, through whoever. We can create these lists, and they just keep calling until they get a live human being, based on obviously the urgency of the threat, and the seriousness of the threat. So if it looks like it's a general threat of, and I'm going to make this up, so don't quote this, Shelley, if you're watching. If it's a general threat of violence without a specific time or something, then we can say, okay, that should be emailed, or a potential threat of violence. If it's don't show up at school tomorrow because at 9:02 something's going to happen, then that's a phone call. Like, we can let them know where our threshold for phone calls versus are.
What I'll do
report
is,
back on it when you're a little bit farther along in your evaluation.
Yeah, I know Depew's been the big local champion of it. So we've approached it there from the tech end. I think what we may want to do is kind of principal to principal speak of that. And again, we hope that we buy this and it never flags anything. Like, I would be thrilled to waste money on this. But the stuff it's trying to catch is the stuff that if it's going to happen, I want to do everything I can to catch it. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, a number of schools have been using it for a while now. But again, I think for us, with the just the increased needs of our student body, we started looking into it in greater detail. But what we'll do is we'll put it on for next month in February, and Mark and the other administrators can gather some additional data in regard to some of the questions that you've had, and then we can have another discussion about it in February.
Are there any other questions you'd like us to research between now and then? And just to be very clear, nothing's going to get turned on between now and then anyways, but any other questions you'd like us to ask? Yeah. Okay.
Mark, I just, in terms of, I know we talked about it briefly, but a little bit about the parental consent and student, and I understand, it's EA K-12 property, the computers and all of that, but I'm just wondering if there's some type of consent piece that goes into this and how other districts have handled that.
I will check. My understanding at this time, there's a notification, but not a consent, because we're only searching our G Suite, our EA K-12 and Google Drive.
Okay.
I will ask that question.
And how are parents notified, Mark?
What? How ours?
How are parents notified then? Every parent gets an email from the district? Is that how we're notified?
What, before it's starting, or when the stuff happens?
Before it's starting, yes.
Oh, yeah, I'll find out. I mean, it could be a letter, it can be an email, it could be notification. Brian can send out a blast. We can let folks know. I mean, however, that's a local decision.
Okay.
I'll find out how other districts have done so.
It could be a general update on technology and a reminder to folks that you are on school property when you're online through Google. right? There could be a code of conduct thing down the line too, if this was to be a regular thing we were going to do.
And it is. And again, the philosophical approach is that this is not a disciplinary tool, that this is a health tool. That's very much our mindset. And I know we've talked over the years I've been here about the increase of safety within the district, and we've treaded very cautiously and carefully because of that. In reviewing it, I think knowing the administration we have and knowing the board we have, the intent of this is a health and safety tool, not a way to electronically discipline kids.
We should
Look
probably
for
check-
ways to detention.
We should probably check sort of the acknowledgements that get signed when computers get issued to make sure that those policies and those procedures, are written in a way that allows for that monitoring to occur.
It does now. All this does is it automates the process. We have, again, from a consent standpoint, the AUP covers this, and so does the code of conduct. What this is just, again, a health and safety tool. But I understand the fear that it feels like a potential discipline tool. That is in no way our intent. So we'll see. We'll call a couple districts, Depew being the leader of them, and find some stuff out, and we'll report back next month.
All right, great, thank you. I've had a request that we take a short break, so I'm gonna call for a short recess. It's 8:24, and can we have folks back in about 6-10 minutes? All right, thank you all.
Where are you going?
Terry, you're not on mute. Terry Ohlweiler? Terry Ohlweiler?
Yeah?
You're not on mute.
Oh, my cats. Thank you. My cat did that. Thank you.
Mark, are you still there? No.
Yes, Dan.
Well, yeah, I just wondered if we were back online. I got an email from one of the people listening, watching us, saying that he thought maybe it was his computer that.
I believe we're back. Dennis, are you there? Or you may have stepped away. Dennis?
Yeah.
I know we went down. I know everything was recorded, but we did lose the live stream.
Yeah. Well, some people may not have been back in time to hear your comment. So maybe later on you could say it again.
I will.
But it was Tom Finiziani. Who
of course. Yeah, there's 3 people watching.
He was waiting. He was waiting for his item to come up.
Of course, and that's when it goes down. We are back and we are live. So if you want to just let him know, I'll make the comment again. I don't know if Tom's watching or not.
I did. I responded and said we're back. So hopefully, hopefully he rebooted the thing and he now sees us.
And if not, I don't know if Dennis has it on right now. It may be when we come back from.
We may not be out broadcasting right now because of the break.
I don't know. I'll mention it again when we come back from the break.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'll be back in 1 minute, Dan.
I'm leaving too. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, do you mind saying something? I changed up my AirPods. I just want to make sure that they're going to work.
Can you hear me?
Thank you. Yep, I can. Thank you.
And Mary Beth, when we come back, I'll just, or you may want to just make the comment again that the feed did drop. Some
Okay.
people missed when we came back and didn't hear my announcement. So everything that we did talk about was recorded and will be transcribed. It just was the
Okay.
live feed. We have 3 watchers. There was a concern about dropping. Did it come back?
Okay, thank you. And I am going to ask folks to just turn their video feed on when they come back so I can get a head count of who's back. So I know we have a quorum. All right, it looks like we have a quorum back, and I just want to, for folks that are listening from home, we did have the live feed. Oh, are we, Dennis, are we on live, or did we pause it, or we're still on live?
Hang on. I think where's Dennis? Hang on, let me get Dennis. He may not.
I just want to make sure. I don't think we close it down normally when we have a break. So
Back.
Pardon me?
We're back.
We're back. Okay, thank you. I just want to, for folks that are listening from home, we did have the live feed cut out for a period of time. But the recording that is going to be posted to the website will always, will have whatever it was that was missed. So the recording took place, but the live feed I know cut out for a little bit because our Wi-Fi was down. But you can go back and see anything that you missed later. So we are all back and moving on in the agenda. We are up to the update on the hybrid learning model. So Brian, is it Brian or Mark? I'm not sure which is going to cover it and how you're going to run that process. So
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, things have been going well. You know, we continue, of course, to face some challenges too. So I just asked the administrators to kind of share, you know, what's happening in their particular area. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Mr. Kaselny shared before, you know, about the conditioning that's been going on, and that's, like I said, been very positive. But I'll kind of like turn it over, start off with Jess, and just hear a report on how things are going, and then I'll kind of tie it up at the end.
okay.
Okay. I don't really have anything new since December. We're just plugging along, and everything's been going good, and we're in a little groove. And I don't really have anything new. I'm sorry, unless somebody has questions or. Okay.
I guess the only thing that sort of comes to mind for me for Parkdale is the kids are all in half day every day, and as those little ones come in the winter months are upon us, do you feel like there's enough time on the beginning and the end to still have all that devoted to instruction and not getting snow boots on or off and winter coats and hats and things?
Yeah, they get used to it after a while, you know, just in the routine of taking everything off. They have their, you know, take off your boots in the hallway, go in, hang your coat up, take your backpack to your desk. So I mean, a couple of minutes here and there, but I know, especially younger kids, they've been getting out to rec outside as much as, or to play outside in the snow or the playground as much as possible. So for example, kindergarten, we reserve the last part of the day, whatever days they want to, so they don't have to get the kids dressed, undressed, dressed, and undressed. So they just dress them up to go home for the day, and they take that time before they would go home to go outside and get a little fresh air. A couple of second grade classes like to go outside, and they do it first thing in the morning and the afternoon when the kids get there. So they're trying to save time if they do take the kids outside, so they're not dressing and undressing twice for those little instances. But they don't really take that long. They're in a good little routine now, so.
Anybody else have questions about Parkdale's hybrid? All right, Brian, you going in order?
Matt Brown?
Sure. Similar to Jess, not much has changed since the last time we spoke about this, but there's a few things that I just wanted to highlight. As I spoke earlier in the administrative comments, we do have 31 students who are coming back to the hybrid model who were previously working remote. So we're excited about that, to have more students back. You know, we obviously respect parents' choices, but with that being said, we really like students in the building, and we really want the students to be in the building as much as possible. The other thing that we're looking at, now that we have that information, Lori Gervasi and myself, we've been working, especially Lori, very hard at balancing classes. And we're trying to identify, we have a team of teachers and our student support team who has identified students that we'd like to bring back 4 days per week. You know, some students who are just struggling. We believe strongly that all the students would benefit from being in school more, but for some students, it's more vital for their success that they're here. So we've been meeting a lot, and we have a plan. We have students with parent input, teacher input, special education teacher input, specialist input, counselors, psychologists, social worker. We're all working together, and we've created a document of students that we're hoping that we can bring back for 4 days of instruction. What's making it very difficult is the balancing of classes with social distancing. We can only have 16 students in a class, and in some grade levels, we have multiple classes that are already at 15 or 16. So we're having to get creative. We're looking at changing some schedules. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. I'm not optimistic that this will happen in the next week. I'm hopeful that within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will be calling some more parents to invite more students back 4 days. But what I can promise you is that every slot, quote unquote, slot that we have, or every opportunity we have to bring another student in more, we are going to take advantage of that. And we've just been on a pause since November, strictly because we didn't know how many students were going to come back for the second semester. We couldn't, we had to know all of that information. So that's really what our focus is right now that we've been working hard on. And then the last thing that I just wanted to mention, all the administrators really, we've been working very hard in our observations. And every year that I'm in and observing, it's, sometimes we complain that, it's a lot of work and, the write-ups, it takes time. It is probably my favorite part of the job, because I'm not just popping my head in and walking around the building, but actually engaged in the lessons for the 40 minutes, for the full period. And it just reminds me, I'm confident and happy, and I know that we're a great school with great teachers, but it reminds me truly how exceptional the experience is for our students, even in this pandemic. One science class that I was in the other day, the teacher was teaching about waves and wavelengths and all the different aspects of waves. And she had students at home that had all their materials, and the students in the classroom with their materials, and they were measuring waves with strings, and they were doing things with partners, in Google Meets. And it was just really cool to see that even with everything going on, there's still hands-on activities, there's still interaction with students that are in school, with students that are at home. And the experience, can I say it's as good as it would be under normal times? I can't say that, but is the experience really good considering what's going on? Yes, it is. And there's students are smiling, and really that's like the pulse of what I'm seeing now as I've been in the classroom a lot more recently, is just really how confident I am in the experience that the students are getting, and how happy I am, that the teachers are providing this. But I do have to say, because I'd regret if I didn't, the amount of work that it has taken for them to do this extra planning, and to change things from Google to, the Google Classroom to hands-on, and all the preparation that goes into this. It's an exceptional amount of work, and people are tired and drained, and it's emotionally exhausting. With that said, though, we have an exceptional team that picks each other up, and we support each other. And I truly feel that everyone's, in this together. So that's all that I wanted to say as far as the actual hybrid model is going. But if you have questions, feel free to ask.
Anyone have questions for Matt?
I do.
Judy, go ahead.
Matt, I was just thinking about the kids that are still struggling, maybe not getting their stuff in on time and things like that. Have you considered maybe pulling those kids, if you can't work it out with the social distancing with the 4 days a week, maybe doing something on a Wednesday or something?
Well,
tutoring.
Yeah,
something.
there's been a lot of options and ideas that have come up. So we have lists. We have so many Google Docs with lists on students, with just information about students. So one example might be the students just not showing up to Google Meets. So I have a list of students that myself and Matt Leibrock, we've reached out to. I have some students who I'm meeting with every other Monday, and Matt is meeting with every other Thursday. And we simply sit down and we go through the parent portal and we talk. And we talk about what's your goal for next week. All right, let's really concentrate on social studies and math. And let's get that average from this number and let's try to get up to this number. But
Sure.
But I'll let you know that our emphasis isn't on the average and the numbers, it's on the engagement. And let's make sure that you attend every Google Meet for the next 2 weeks. And then they come back and we follow up with them. We also have our counselor, Carrie and Kathy, our psychologist, and Maggie, our social worker, who's exceptional. They're doing the same thing with multiple students. So what I feel good about is that we're having conversations, we're reaching out. So I don't think any students are just being left out there and forgotten or falling through the cracks. With that being said, is it working perfect? And is every student, fully engaged? No. And so those are some of the conversations that we continue to have.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else for Matt? Thanks, Matt, for the update.
Sure.
Okay, Bill and Travis.
It's never good following Matt Brown. He always does such a nice job. But we are a little competitive, and I'm proud to announce that as of today, we have 41 students returning to the high school. Matt, I won't have you tell everyone how many you have returning. And we still have a few outstanding phone calls or return calls that we're waiting for. Ms. Sedfeld has been reaching out to all those families over the last week and just playing a phone tag with a few more. But we're really excited to get those 41 plus students back. And as Matt had said earlier in the meeting, we will host them next Wednesday, if they choose, for a return to school orientation, because of the importance of that transition for a number of them who have not been with us, as Matt had said. A number of them who are returning to the high school were for the first time this year. So, I guess I just want to reiterate what Matt said. When we have that final list of students who are going to remain remote for the rest of the school year, we will then look at our struggling students, as Judy had mentioned, and reach out to them to have them return for 4-day-a-week instruction. And it's not always perfect, I'll say. The first thing we do is we go through a student's schedule to make sure that there is space, as Matt referenced, space in each of their classrooms. But we've had some students who have returned who maybe can't fit into each of their classrooms. So maybe for one classroom, they're in our academic learning center and they are viewing that class through the Google Meet, but we find that to still be of great value. So we'll continue to work through that list of students who are struggling. And our goal is to get as many students back in the building as possible, because now we know what our numbers will be from now until the end of June. And we have a similar system that Matt has in place at the middle school. It works quite well. Travis can tell you that there's constant communication about all of those students and review of each of those students and their progress. And that'll be continuing. We are looking at a few minor changes to enhance the engagement of all of our students. And we are meeting every week. I have another meeting tomorrow morning with my team leaders to discuss some ideas that we're throwing about with the plan of when we return from the February break, we would have a model in place that we'd like to see through to the end of the year. Nothing major, but just some minor tweaks that'll, like I said, hopefully increase the engagement of all students, but especially focusing on those who are struggling and why they're struggling. So give me another week or two, and maybe by that February, I'm not sure, our first meeting in February, I can give you some of those updates, and then we'll inform the families and students of what those are. So if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Does anyone have questions for the high school? Jessica, I want to just go back to Parkdale. Both Matt and Bill talked about these kind of, I would say, bigger swings of kids coming back. If you said it, I just missed it. Are you having a significant number of students returning that had been remote?
No, we have 5, and 3 of them are siblings. So 3 families, 5 total children.
Okay, so no issues on whether there's space in those rooms or not with those?
No,
kids?
yeah, no, actually, they're staying with their same remote teacher. They're just switching to the AM session. Because that's the in-person session, the AM.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for any of the principals or Travis on the high school for the hybrid model? No, Brian, I kick it back to you.
Sure. Let's see, Jerome, I think Doug, I don't know, I think Doug, you went. I don't know if there's anything else for you.
No, I'm all set.
Is that okay? Joanne too, I think, I don't know if you want to share anything else at this time.
I think I've caught everything that I thought was relevant.
Very good. Okay, thanks. Jerome?
No, Brian, I think the principals did, said it all.
Very good. I know you're in the midst of an audit too, so that's consuming a lot of your time. So dreaded audits. So we appreciate you hanging in there to the bitter end there, buddy.
Thank you.
It's a difficult process to go through. And just Mark, anything else? Okay, also. I just would like to add a few things that I have on my list. I think we talked about the training and conditioning piece, and Terry brought it up before about the musical, and so just grateful to Chris Cummins, who came to Bill to talk about, hey, I think I'd really still like to do a musical with the kids, and I've got some crazy ideas on how to make it happen. And so they called me, and so we're going to sit down tomorrow and kind of work that piece out and make it happen for the kids too, because that's such a huge event for us. So many kids participate. I mean, it's just really quite incredible. So we're really hoping so that they'll enjoy that experience as well. We have seen a slight rise in the number of students who are coming down with the virus. You probably have seen those reports that I've been sending out. Just sent another report out this evening. We're thinking about adjusting that process, but before we do that, we'll continue to do what we're doing. But the one good thing that we can say is that virtually there's very limited contact tracing within the district for all of those collective cases, very, very few. And so there's, and also we couldn't determine there's any transmission within the school district itself. The cases are coming from the home where a parent or a sibling is coming down with the virus and then spreading it within their family unit. So, I think our safety precautions continue to be working quite well. We're really focused on social distancing, use of masks and barriers and cleaning within each of the classrooms. So just wanted to kind of address that, because I know there are some concerns as those cases do rise from some of our families. But I want to assure them that we can't be 100% certain, but certainly the vast majority of those cases are happening from outside of the district, if not all of them. We had a meeting, as some of the administrators have alluded. There's a lot of stress and strains on our students, a lot of stress and strain on our staff as well. And so the mental health and well-being and social emotional learning has kind of taken a central focus for us. And so we've been meeting to talk about that and what we can do to address their needs. And today I had a meeting with the administrative team and all the mental health providers within the district to just try to start brainstorming some ideas on what we can do to continue to provide support. And I think the administrators have talked about that, about what they're doing to help our students who are at risk and some of those families as well. And then I think maybe a little bit of a bigger focus right now is also what can we do to support our staff members who are, in some ways exhausted by the persistency of the virus, and it's not going to end anytime soon. Although we're grateful that there is a vaccine and that will certainly provide the relief in the long run. But I think over the next several months, with new strains of the virus coming on the scene, we're going to continue to need to be as vigilant as we possibly can be, and we need to provide them with support and relief in regard to that. So we're going to continue with those conversations, and I'll keep the board up to date at each of the board meetings moving forward. Happy to say that, we're working with our PTO. PTO was doing a speaker series for our community prior to the COVID virus, and we thought it would be, a good idea to continue that. That structure was well received by the community, and Jessica has been working with the parent network of Western New York, and next week we're going to be offering a structures, routines, and strategies for parents during COVID-19. I'll be sending out a blast to the entire district to make them aware of the webinar that will take place next Tuesday. It's next Tuesday, Jess? Yes, next Tuesday. Next Tuesday. And then we're going to have a second presentation that will address the vaccine itself. Parent Network is working with medical professionals who are putting on like Q&A webinars around the vaccine. Right now, the vaccine is primarily just available for adults. There are, for one of the vaccines, 16 and up, and one of the vaccines, 18 and up, so most of our students are not allowed. But the governor has talked about vaccination of students. I don't know when that'll exactly come. But even for parents who have questions about taking the vaccine themselves, this will just give them an opportunity to listen to medical professionals around those topics. And so we're just grateful for the PTO's collaboration and also what they're doing in each of the schools to, provide just positive opportunities for our kids. There's going to be more and more coming online for the winter as well as we move into the spring. So hopefully we'll be able to get outside a little bit more. That will give us more opportunities. If things continue to trend the way they are, our rates are consistently lower over the last 7 days. So we're really hopeful that we might be removed from the orange zone, moved to a yellow zone, which then allows us to do a number of those activities that we were hoping to do and have been planned. Let's see what else. That's about it. Yeah, I think too, again, hearing about the observations and hearing about what's happening in the classrooms, I'm just, very pleased with the level of commitment our teachers and support staff and the administrators have shown to trying to maintain as normal as experience as possible. Is it exactly the same as it is when kids are here 5 days a week? No, it's not. But the activities and the planning and the quality of the lessons has really been quite exceptional. And I think in many ways, we can hold our model up as an example because our students are engaged in instruction most of the week. And it hasn't been easy, and it's taken a lot of coordination planning, but just very pleased with what we've been able to do so far. And I think that's about it.
Brian, can you remind us what happens if we have a huge snowstorm? Are we doing snow days? Do we not do snow days?
Yeah. We would be doing snow days right now as we have in the past. Because, like, say for instance, half the school is here on any given day. So if it's determined that it's unsafe, then we would have a snow day. We talked a little bit about could we do pivot to remote. It makes it difficult if teachers aren't prepared to do that in regard to having their supplies and things available to them in their homes. So, like, when we moved from like a hybrid model to a remote model, they were given notice. They take all their supplies home, all their teaching materials with them, and then they teach from their homes until we're able to come back to school. On any given day, to try to make that happen would be difficult. The only thing that we are talking about is what would Wednesdays look like, since all the students are home. And so that may be a way that we could still continue with instruction, asynchronous activities, the other clubs and other activities that happen on those days, office hours, and the collaborative teaching at Parkdale. We're thinking it could still continue on Wednesdays if it just happens to land on a Wednesday.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else with questions? Well, thanks, Brian, and folks for the update. I am just constantly amazed at the ability for our school to provide such great instruction during a really difficult time, and I am impressed by how much you guys have been able to do, and I think we all appreciate the hard work that goes in, the double duty, if you will, that it takes to put on something in these times. So our kudos, our congratulations, and just thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you, Maribel.
So any legislation to come before the board? You're muted, Brian. I'm getting a no, but
No, not that I'm aware of.
yeah. Moving on to the consensus agenda. Is there any board member who wants to remove an item from the consensus agenda for separate discussion? All right. Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the consensus agenda?
Moved.
Moved by Jessica, seconded by Dan Brunson. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Carried 7-0. Just bear with me. I want to get to our individual items. All right. We're moving on to item 14, items requiring board action. Item A, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve for a second reading board policy number 3421, Title IX and sex discrimination. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Judy, second.
Second.
Seconded by Terry. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Item B, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education accept the resignation for the purpose of retirement of Candy Oveen, math teacher at the high school, effective June 30th of 2021. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Judy, seconded by, I missed it.
Kim.
Kim. Discussion. He's been with us a long time.
She sure has.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Candy for her really amazing career with the district. She's been with us for more than 30 years and has really done an outstanding job for our students. Just committed to other aspects of the district and the high school. And so we wish her are the very best. And thank her, like I said, for her many years of service.
I didn't take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Item C, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education accept the 2019-2020 internal audit corrective action plan as detailed in your attachments. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dan Brunson. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kim Daniel. Discussion?
Well, I just would say that I had a nice chat with Tom Finiziani, who's listening in tonight, about his audit work and in particular, the corrective action plan. And he's very pleased with the progress the district is taking. There's just one issue that remains to be resolved, and it has to do with this disaster recovery plan, which I know people are working on, and there was some delay associated with Rich's retirement and some other issues. There's some costs associated with it, so I know it's not an easy fix, but it's one that's important to attend to in the long run, because we all have heard about organizations who have had disastrous loss of data or access to their computer systems, and the effect it has on the functioning of the entire organization. So I encourage the district to continue to address this issue as the months go by, and commit the plan to writing so that we all understand it.
And that the plan, as I understand it, is to complete that. I mean, I know the corrective action plan is to complete it in the next fiscal year. I'm hoping we'll be able to accomplish that, right?
We've made tremendous progress on it, so expect an update shortly. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
It has not slipped through the cracks. If anything, we're making good progress.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 7-0. Item D, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the resolution dated today, that the Board of Education authorizes the transfer of funds in the amount of $375,035 from the repair reserve to the district's general fund budget. That resolution is detailed in your agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dan Brunson. Second?
Second.
Seconded by Terry?
Yep.
Was it Terry? Discussion?
Can you just remind us if this is the figure that was discussed and approved at the public hearing that we had on this issue?
It is. It's the amount that was discussed at the second public hearing that was held in August.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Item E, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the unpaid leave of absence for Julie Rizzo, 1.0 FTE Spanish teacher, effective February 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2021. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Kim Daniel?
Judy.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't see it light up. Judy, moved by Judy Malice. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kim Daniel. Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, carried 7-0. Item F, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve a sports merger with the Holland Central School District. It says for the 2020-2021 school year. Is that supposed to be for the 2021-2022 fall school year?
I think you missed the one ahead of it. F is 20.
Where am I?
Oh, no,
So
you're correct.
F I think has the wrong dates.
Mary Beth,
No,
didn't fall get moved to?
Yeah, falls in the
Spring.
spring now, right?
right, but I actually think that these were for this year because we didn't act on them this fall or last spring. Yeah, because I caught that myself, and I
Okay.
think that we have to. We're actually kind of going back a little bit in time.
Because we didn't run those. We didn't run these in particular sports. This is fall 2. We didn't run those fall 2 sports. All right, then I'll start over.
We did some of them. We did golf.
Right. Yeah, I think what happened is that it didn't appear on the agenda last spring. That would have been. I thought, Jackie. I'll have to check on that, Mary Beth. I'm sorry.
Well, we can act on it in retrospect for the 2021, but if we need to act for the fall of this coming season, we need to do that. So let's just do it as though we didn't do it before.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to start over. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve a sports merger with the Holland Central School District for the 2020-2021 fall season of modified A and varsity level football, modified junior varsity and varsity boys volleyball, varsity golf, and varsity cheerleading, and that the contracts can be executed by the superintendent of schools. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Jessica Armbruster, second. Who said it? Terry Olweiler, second by Terry Olweiler. Discussion?
So just so I understand, Brian, this will apply. So if football happens in the spring or volleyball happen in the spring, this is applicable to those
Right. Yes, it would be. It's correct. Yeah.
for this because they're fall sports, but they're happening in the spring. So it's not. Okay.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And then again, Brian, if we need to do it for next year, we'll have to bring those up.
Sure.
All right, the item G, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve a sports merger with the Holland Central School District for the 2020-2021 winter season for modified and varsity wrestling, varsity cheerleading, and varsity indoor track, and that the contracts can be executed by the superintendent. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Jessica Armbruster, second.
Second.
Second by Terry Olweiler. Discussion? All those in favor, please. Sorry, what did I miss? Cammy, go ahead.
Brian, are any of those sports occurring this winter? I thought that the sports were not going to be happening. I guess I'm just a little confused.
Yeah. I just checked with Jackie. These actually weren't done last year. So normally we would be approving, Jackie, I don't know if you want to jump in, but normally we would be approving, like Mary Beth said, like the 21-22 sports seasons in the spring, in the winter and spring of this year. But we might not have done it last year, Jackie. Is that correct?
Correct. These are like retroactive. The contract.
I guess what the question is, this winter sports
are not
so why currently running. Are they going to run at all? I guess we got to do the merger in case they run delayed.
In case they run in the spring.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
yeah. It's unlikely, but this would cover us for that, right?
Brian, that you cut out on.
Oh. Did everybody hear that? Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. Sorry about the confusion.
I actually did a chart of all of the merged sports back to when we started, so I can share that with the board.
I lost my sound.
Yeah, we can hear you, Mary Beth.
Just
Mary Beth, try again. We had you.
Can somebody say something?
We're talking.
We can hear you.
Jack, can you repeat what you just said?
Yes,
I have no idea what happened. I'm muted for some reason. I know you can hear me. Okay, so we didn't take a vote on that last one,
Wait, Mary Beth, Jackie was going to explain something.
but we have the answer on item G, so I'm gonna ask
I hear you, Terry.
Oh,
for all those in favor, please say aye, and I'm gonna ask you to say it, but I'm also gonna ask you to raise your hand, so I know that the vote is,
Aye.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And we have 7-0. Right.
So
And I'm just going to talk at you for a minute. Items, our next regularly scheduled board meeting is Wednesday, February 10th. There's a bunch of updated workshops in your agenda. And then I will ask if there's any other business to come before the board. Terry has something. Jess, I'm going to have you take over. I cannot hear.
You got it. Terry, go ahead.
I just wanted to hear what Jackie had to say.
I think she said she was going to provide us with a chart.
Yes,
But
I did a chart of the, all of the bird reports with Holland going back to 2016-17, and I will update it and I'll share it with the board so you can see where we are.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.
Any other items of information or things to
But just a quick question for Brian. What do you anticipate having with regard to budget discussion at the February meeting? Perhaps an analysis of the state aid runs might be helpful.
Yeah, Dan, that's what we're thinking again. We're not sure exactly what's going to become available in regard to the state aid, with the governor knowing or not knowing how much he may need to cut or not. So I would say it's unlikely that we get that information by then, but we will be able to take a look at the current aid runs and have those evaluated, and we'll be able to share that with you in regard to what we know. Yeah, I mean, because the aid runs right now, the way they reconfigured it, we really don't even know what the different categories mean anymore. Yeah, so it's I'll be honest, it's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I read yesterday or today was that the aid runs that were published were based on his worst case scenario, which was the $6 billion or whatever that he was hoping to get from the federal government, but that he really wanted 15 billion. And so apparently he took the point of view of being conservative and said this is what would happen if we get the smaller amount.
Yeah,
That's correct, Dan. But what is confusing is that all the categorical aids are gone and things are put together. And
Yeah.
I've been trying to tie those numbers out for the current year so that I understand it, and they don't tie.
Yeah.
So it's a very strange state aid run. I'm going to need time to dissect it.
Well, yeah, and you have to read that complicated first dozen pages that explain how they calculate each one of those categories. Hopefully that if they've eliminated certain categorical aids, they're still taking into account the costs that districts have relating to those categories when they're doing the combined new figure.
Yeah, one of the questions, Dan, just for the board, is that will they put a limit on that combined categorical aid? That would, be very impactful, like on our BOCES expenditures and those types of things. So
Yeah.
it's a lot to consider. Joanne, do you have the packet that goes along? Do you have the budget packet? Yeah.
I do, and I did read that. I know exactly what Dan's talking about, and that's what doesn't tie. I followed their directions for the 2021 year, and it doesn't tie out to their numbers.
So hopefully you'll have some, I'm back, I guess.
Well,
So
what
hopefully you'll have some information between now and the meeting on the.
Oh, yeah, we'll
February.
definitely have more information than we do right now. And we definitely will have more information specifically around the aid runs. And we may have some information in regard to what the funding looks like from the federal government. And then once we do that, then we'll really be able to make some progress.
And I remember we have 3 board meetings in March. And anticipate more information at each one of those on the budget as we go forward. So those will be a bit more robust on discussions. Dan, did you have something else?
Yeah, just one more comment that perhaps at one of those early meetings, we can have a discussion about what initiatives the district would like to prioritize moving forward. We don't have to have numbers, but I think it's important that the board come to a consensus on the initiatives so that you can then plow the numbers into the first draft of the budget based on the support that you have for that. And I think it's good for us to understand too how the next budget will differ educationally from the current budget. And those are the kind of initiatives I'm talking about. Initiatives in teaching and learning, initiatives in facilities, whatever.
Yeah, we'll go back, Dan, to the restoration list that we've been working from, as well as some of the new ideas and programs that we put before the board. So we'll have that information, and just in regard to general discussion. Here's a reminder of where we were at last year and what we're hoping to do as we move forward to this year and even beyond this year over the next 2 to 3 years.
Sure. That's how we ended up with a social worker, as an example, by having continuous discussion about where the needs were and what the priorities were.
Anyone else? Anything further? Jerome, happy retirement.
Congrats, Jerome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice working with you, Jerome.
Yeah.
Say hi to Paul. You guys will probably get together more often now.
Only if you swing by and pick me up. That's
Post-pandemic plan.
Oh, yeah.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Jess. Second.
Second.
Kim, Daniel. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
How many did we have, Mark? Just 3?
Yeah, it was very low. 3, and Tom Finiziani was 1. And I'm guessing
Probably Shelley Ferrulo and
Sally and the lady from the
B. Okay.